Hello, Copic in the Craft Room fans. I am here for a video, and if I have time, I'm going to record two today, and so you'll get kind of a bonus video as we approach Christmas Day. We are busy celebrating the holidays, and at our house that means Christmas. So I am getting together some Christmas images, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do kind of over the next few weeks because I bought way too many stamp sets. There were too many cute things going on. So I have these two sets from Stamping Bella. These are not the only two I got. Of these little, the littles, those groups of sets. And what I loved about these is I could pick out little groups of them, or I could get the whole shebang. And I picked out some of my favorite little small groups of the littles. I also have some snowman ones, so you will see another set of these videos. But what I love is they have all these pieces and then you can put them into scenes together. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you how I set up a scene like this with Santa and his sleigh and gifts and how I layer that up. So you'll actually see the stamping on this one today because I think it's important to remind ourselves how to do a scene like that. And then I'm also, what I think I'm going to do with these guys, because I love these elves. I really didn't need another Christmas set, but I could not resist. So what I'm thinking is maybe these could be either birthday elves or the New Year's elves or some sort of party elf. And so these guys are going to get stacked up as well. Not on the video today, but they will make a return appearance, but probably in the new year, maybe in January to celebrate that. So Stamping Bella. This is from the Littles set, and this is Little Bits Christmas Collection Santa Gifts. So this is a specific set. It has the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stamps in it. You can get a bigger set that includes more. This is the one I chose. They do have die sets that correspond with these as well. So what I'm going to be doing is layering up a little scene with Santa and his sleigh, reindeers out front. But the sleigh, obviously I can stack these around the image all completely separately, but I want to actually put Santa into his sleigh. And I also want to put those boxes into the sleigh, kind of in a stack. I could maybe put one on the ground, but, and I might do that like one has fallen out. But when I do a scene like this, it's kind of, I almost have to think about it in opposite. Usually you think about a scene from the back forward, what's closest to the viewer. When you're stamping these pieces, you actually have to think about what's closest to you, what's in front. And so what I'm going to have to do is actually do this sleigh first because it's going to be the closest to me. And then Santa is inside the sleigh, so he's to the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this guy, get these pieces out, and I'm going to line up that sleigh. Now I'm going to start speeding this video up here so we can get it all done. But of course, as always, I will voice over this so you guys have a real good sense of what I'm doing. All right, so I'm going to ink up the sled and get that on there. And then I'm going to ink up, or I'm going to stamp the sled a second time just on a Post-it note. And I realized I needed to do it a second time because I messed up the first initial stamp. So then I'm cutting out the top edge of the sled because that's really the only part I need to mask off. And then I'm lining up Santa and then a couple other items that are going to be on that same layer. But notice they're not overlapping anything, so it's not a real big deal. Making sure all those edges are going to be clear, getting those reindeer a little bit closer to the sleigh. And then stamping Santa and the reindeer. And then I realized after I pulled the stamps off that I need an image of the Santa too, because I'm going to add a few more gifts. So I'm going to stamp him on a second Post-it note, and I'm going to cover up with the top part of his hat having that little sticky piece and really cutting that top edge out so he can have some gifts kind of popping out the back of the sleigh. Ink those up and stamp them. And then I can pull those Post-its off and I've got this really neat layered look that I've created with those individual stamps. So then I'm going to start coloring. I've got a YR000 and an R21 on his little face, a BV20 with some squiggles and little dots, small flicks on his beard and squiggles at the bottom edge, and then a BV23 to darken up just those little bottom edges. And then I'm softening it quite a bit with a colorless blender, and again with BV20 and the colorless blender. R21 to base the reds. Notice I did not go to the edges. R24 is the next color. And then a little tiny bit of R29. This is going all the way into those corners, hitting those edges. Then softening with the R21 first. Remember those reds, we're trying to kind of minimize the amount we use. And so I'm trying to do that real cautiously with those three colors back and forth. I'm using the same three colors on the sled. So R21 to start, R24 is next, and then R29 is going to finish up. Now notice again, I did not go to the edges with the first two colors, finally finished those edges with the last. And really easing in on the blending, keeping it really light. I am going to go back with an R59 to hit some of those deepest shadow areas on the sled to really pop it out a little bit more, give it a lot more dimension. And I really like the way that finished off. The Y00 is going to base the sled runners and kind of the edge, just to give it kind of an appearance of gold, and then a Y28. It's a pretty powerful color, but in combination on those small areas with the Y21 and the Y00, you get a really nice gold effect. For the gifts, I'm going to use a YG07 and a YG09 for several areas. Ribbons and the boxes, and then YG07 and blend those back. R24 is going to be some of those other areas on the ribbons. And the R24 and R29 on those two areas. I'm adding just some dots of R24 on some of the little packages, on those other packages, and then adding just almost like the appearance of holly leaves and berries. So kind of fun wrapping paper. I've got my little deers, and they are going to be a base of an E35. The noses and antlers are an E33, and then a little bit of shading with E37. And I'm actually going back with E31 to lighten those up considerably and to soften those colors together. On the shadows, I'm going to start with a C1 underneath the sled, underneath the deer, and underneath that little present that has fallen out on the snow. C3 kind of right up against those objects to darken that up and to soften it. C1, and then the colorless blender. I did have some color drop on that page somewhere. I don't know where that dot of blue came from. I'm using a BG000 for the sky. I'm just coming in from kind of a horizon line that I've created, and I'm using both the chisel nib and the brush nib. This marker desperately needs to be refilled, so I'm forcing the issue a little bit on ink and then softening with the colorless blender. Thank you so much for joining me this week. Hopefully I'll have time to get a couple more in for the holiday weekend. I hope you have a fabulous Christmas if you're celebrating that holiday with your family and friends. Please join me over at Copic and the Craft Room on Facebook as well. Have a happy, colorful week.